I wasn't planning to go to Colorado. Not yet. Not for this. Mia and I had mapped out a whole route. Ghost towns, roadside legends, places with stories that hadn't been picked clean by every paranormal YouTuber with a drone. We were going to start small, build something. But then Lena called. It was late. I was half asleep, editing footage from a gas station interview in Nebraska. Mia didn't recognize the number at first, but the voice? She knew it. Lena Caldwell. They'd met years ago through a volunteer gig, stayed loosely in touch. The call was short, a little rushed, and full of half-finished thoughts. Lena had just finished a seasonal housekeeping job at the Stanley Hotel. She said it was beautiful, well-run, and strange. Not in the ghost story way, just off. Quiet things, odd timing. A few moments that didn't make sense. She didn't elaborate much, but she invited us to apply for the next seasonal opening. Said they were hiring again. Said we'd see for ourselves. Mia hung up and stared at the wall for a long time. Then she looked at me and said, "Let's go." We packed fast. Booked seasonal jobs. Housekeeping for Mia, front desk for me. Easy cover, easy access. I didn't love the idea of working while filming, but Mia was locked in, focused, determined. I kept the camera charged, just in case. The drive was long. We had time to talk. Not about ghosts, about us. I still think the asylum footage was our best, I said, watching the road bend through the trees. Mia snorted. You mean the one where you tripped over a mop bucket and screamed like a toddler? Authentic reaction, that's what people want. They want credibility, she said, not jump scares and shaky cam. That was Mia, always grounded, always pushing for the truth behind the story. She didn't care about views. She cared about what was real. I cared about both. You still think this is just content? She asked. I think it's a lead, and if it turns out to be nothing, we still get paid. She didn't answer right away, just stared out the window. You know Lena's not the type to exaggerate, she said finally. If she says something's off, it's off. I nodded. Mia had good instincts. She was the one who caught the fake medium in Kansas, the one who noticed the missing dates in the cemetery records in Iowa. She didn't chase shadows. She followed patterns. We didn't talk much after that. Mia kept checking her phone. Lena hadn't messaged since the call. No texts, no follow-up, just that one invitation. She said whatever's happening there, it's quiet. Careful. Like it's trying not to be noticed. We arrived just after sunset. The Stanley looked exactly how it looks in photos. Grand, historic, welcoming. The kind of place that's been polished for decades. The kind of place that knows how to host. The lobby smelled like lemon polish and old carpet. The staff were friendly, smiling, helpful. Exactly what you'd expect. Everything felt normal. Maybe too normal. Miss Kessler was at the front desk. Mid-40s, hair in a tight bun, voice like a voicemail greeting. She welcomed us, asked about our drive, offered us water. Then she slid 2 keys across the counter. Room 217. I asked if we could switch. She smiled and said it was the only room available. A few minutes later, Mr. Ashcroft arrived, the manager. Pressed suit, perfect posture, eyes that didn't blink enough. He shook our hands like he'd rehearsed it. Told us the Stanley valued discretion, professionalism, and tradition. Said we'd find the routines grounding. He handed us welcome packets. Schedules, maps, a small envelope with our names on it. Inside mine was a typed note. Watch yourself. I didn't ask what it meant, because I already knew. We took the elevator. It groaned, not from age, but from use. The hallway was long, too long. The room was spotless, not clean, sterile. No dust, no scent, no personality, just a second note on the dresser. Same type, same yellowed paper. Watch yourself. Mia didn't flinch. She just nodded. We unpacked in silence. I kept the camera close.
My first shift started at 6 a.m. The lobby was quiet, too quiet for a hotel this size. I'd worked front desk before, small places, roadside motels, even a ski lodge once. There's always noise. A guest asking for towels, a kid trying to sneak cereal before breakfast opens. But here? Nothing. Miss Kessler was already behind the desk when I arrived. She smiled like she'd been waiting. "Good morning, Mr. Reed," she said. "You're early. That's excellent." She handed me a clipboard with the day's schedule. It was typed, neatly spaced. No room for notes, no room for questions. "Mr. Ashcroft likes things orderly," she said. "You'll find the rhythm soon." I nodded, trying to read her tone. She was polite, professional, but there was something in her eyes, like she was watching for a reaction, like she was measuring me. The first few hours were normal. I checked in a couple from Denver, answered a call about late checkout, helped a delivery guy find the kitchen entrance. Everything ran smooth. Too smooth. At 9:15, a man named Jonas came in from the East Wing. Maintenance, according to his badge. He was tall, quiet, and smelled faintly of bleach. He didn't speak, just nodded at me and dropped a small envelope on the counter. Inside was a single key, no room number, just a tag that said storage. "Where's this supposed to go?" I asked. Jonas didn't answer. He just turned and walked back the way he came. I logged it, like I was supposed to, but the key didn't match any of the labeled storage rooms on the map Mr. Ashcroft gave us. I checked twice. At noon, I took my break. Mia met me outside the staff lounge. She looked tired. "Laundry room's weird. They keep folding towels that aren't dirty." "What do you mean?" "I mean they're clean, already folded, but they keep doing it, like it's part of the routine." We sat in silence for a while. The break room had no windows, just a vending machine and a clock that ticked too loud. I met a guy named Jonas, maintenance, dropped off a key with no label. Mia raised an eyebrow. "You think it's connected?" "I think it's something." After lunch, I asked Miss Kessler if there were any off-map rooms. She smiled. "Everything you need is in your packet. Just follow the routine." I didn't push it. Later that afternoon, I noticed something else. Every staff member I passed, housekeeping, kitchen, even the bellhop, wore the same pin. Small, silver, shaped like a spiral. I hadn't seen it in the welcome packet. Mia didn't have one. I didn't either. At 4:30, Mr. Ashcroft stopped by the desk. He complimented my posture, asked if I was settling in. He said, "Staff culture here is very important. We value consistency, harmony. You'll find that the longer you're here, the more things make sense." He tapped the counter twice before walking away. I watched him go. He didn't look back. That night, back in room 217, I found another note. Same type, same yellowed paper. "Don't ask about the door." There was no signature, no explanation. The second day felt normal. That was the problem. I clocked in at 6 a.m. sharp. Miss Kessler greeted me with the same smile, same clipboard, same line. "You're early. That's excellent." I was starting to wonder if she said that to everyone. The morning rush came and went. A couple from Florida asked about hiking trails. A man in a suit requested a wake-up call for 4 a.m. I logged everything, smiled, stayed in rhythm. At 10, Mr. Ashcroft held a brief staff meeting in the lounge. It was short, efficient. He welcomed new hires, reminded us of Stanley standards, and handed out silver spiral pins to those who hadn't received one yet. I didn't get one. Neither did Mia. Afterwards, I asked her about it. "They gave them out in housekeeping too," she said, "but only to certain people. No explanation." We compared notes over lunch. Mia had noticed something odd in the linen closet,
a shelf labeled LC, with folded towels stacked in perfect symmetry. She asked the coworker what it meant. They said it was for legacy cleaning. No one explained further. "I think Lena worked in that wing," Mia said. "East side, second floor." I checked the staff roster in my welcome packet. Lena Caldwell wasn't listed. Not under housekeeping, not anywhere. That afternoon, I had a strange interaction with a guest. Older man, maybe late 60s, checked in for a 2-night stay. He looked tired. Not travel tired, something deeper. I handed him his key, room 204. He stared at it for a long time, then looked up at me and said, "Do they still do the morning thing?" I blinked. "Sorry?" "The thing with the hallway, the spiral." I didn't know what to say. He nodded like he expected that, took the key and walked off. I watched him go. He didn't ask about breakfast, didn't ask about Wi-Fi, just that. Later that evening, I reviewed my footage. Nothing unusual, just lobby shots, hallway pans, a few quiet moments from the break room. But when I slowed down a frame from the east wing, I saw something. A door. No number, no signage. Just a spiral symbol etched into the wood. I hadn't noticed it in person. I showed Mia. "That's not on the map," she said. We decided to check it out the next morning, quietly, off shift. Before bed, I found another note in the drawer beside my bed. Same type, same yellowed paper. "Legacy isn't earned, it's chosen." I didn't sleep much. Around 2 a.m., I heard footsteps in the hallway. Slow, even, not rushed, not random. I got up and looked through the peephole. No one there. But the elevator light was on. Floor 2. I waited. Nothing changed. Eventually, I went to bed, but I kept the camera on the nightstand. Battery full, lens clean. Just in case.
We waited until our shifts ended. Mia finished folding towels that didn't need folding. I logged the last wake-up call and handed off the desk to the night clerk. We met in the staff lounge, grabbed 2 waters, and walked out like we were heading to the vending machine. No one stopped us. The East Wing was quiet, older, less polished than the rest of the hotel. The wallpaper had a faint floral pattern, faded in places. The carpet was newer, but it didn't match the trim. It felt like a renovation that never finished. We passed room 231, then 233, then a blank stretch of wall. "There," Mia said. The door was flush with the wall. No number, no signage. Just a small spiral etched into the wood, same shape as the pins. I tried the handle. Locked. Mia knelt down and ran her fingers along the baseboard. "There's a gap," she said, like something was removed. I checked the map from my welcome packet. This section was labeled as storage access, staff only. But there were no doors marked here, no spiral, no mention of anything between 233 and 235. We didn't force it. Not yet. Instead, we kept walking. At the end of the hall was a supply closet. Mia opened it with her staff key. Inside were shelves of folded linens, cleaning supplies, and a small wooden box tucked behind a stack of bleach bottles. She pulled it out. No lock, just a sliding lid. Inside was a journal. Leather-bound, worn, the initials LC etched into the corner. Mia opened it slowly. The first few pages were normal. Notes about shift times, room numbers, and laundry rotations. Then it changed. They meet before sunrise. Always the same hallway, always the same order. I asked about the pins. Kessler said they're earned. Ashcroft said they're inherited. I stopped wearing mine. That's when things got quiet. We flipped to the back. A folded piece of paper was tucked into the spine. A hand-drawn map. Not of the hotel, of the East Wing. It showed a second hallway behind the one we just walked. Hidden. Narrow. Labeled Legacy Path. I think Lena was trying to document it, whatever it is, Mia said. And I think she didn't finish. We took the journal and left the closet exactly how we found it. Back in room 217, we spread everything out on the desk. Lena's notes, the map, and the 2 warning slips we had found. Watch yourself. Legacy isn't earned, it's chosen. Mia stared at the spiral symbol. It's not just decorative, it's directional, like it's pointing inward. I didn't know what that meant. Not yet. The next morning, I watched the staff more closely. The ones with pins always walked in pairs, always turned left at the end of the hall, always greeted each other with the same phrase, "Stay steady." I asked Miss Kessler what it meant. She smiled. "It's just a tradition," she said. "You'll learn it in time." I didn't push. That afternoon, I saw Jonas again. Maintenance. He was replacing a light bulb in the hallway near the East Wing. I asked him if he'd ever worked behind the spiral door. He didn't answer. Just looked at me for a long moment. Then said, "Some doors aren't meant to be opened. Not by everyone." Then he walked away. That night, Mia found another note. This one was under her pillow. "If you're reading this, you're already part of it." She didn't sleep. Neither did I. Around 2 a.m., I heard footsteps in the hallway. Slow. Even. Not rushed. Not random. I got up and looked through the peephole. No one there. But the elevator light was on. Floor 2. I waited. Nothing changed. Eventually, I went back to bed, but I kept the camera on the nightstand. Battery full, lens clean. Just in case. At 3:17 a.m., the alarm clock blinked. Not flashed, blinked. Like it skipped a second. Then another. Then it reset to 3 a.m. I filmed it. The next morning, I reviewed the footage. The clock never blinked. It stayed at 3 the entire time. But I remember it changing. Mia checked the journal again. One of the entries had shifted. The handwriting was the same, but the wording was different. I stopped wearing mine. That's when things got quiet. Now it said, "I stopped wearing mine. That's when they stopped seeing me." We didn't know what that meant. But we knew it wasn't normal. We waited until 4:30 a.m. Lena's journal said they met before sunrise. Always the same hallway. Always the same order. Mia set her alarm. I didn't sleep anyway. We dressed quietly, grabbed the camera, and slipped out of room 217. The halls were empty. No staff, no guests, just the hum of old wiring and the soft creak of floorboards that shouldn't have been moving. The East Wing was colder than usual. Not freezing, just wrong, like the temperature hadn't been set by a thermostat. We followed Lena's map, past room 233, past the spiral door, then down a narrow service corridor that wasn't on any blueprint. The walls were bare, no wallpaper, no trim, just concrete and exposed pipes. At the end was a door, metal, unmarked, no handle.
We waited. At 4:57, we heard footsteps. Not rushed, not casual, rhythmic. 3 staff members turned the corner, all wearing spiral pins, all dressed in standard uniforms, but their eyes were blank. Not tired, not focused, just absent. They stopped in front of the metal door. One of them, Jonas, pressed his palm against the surface. The door clicked, opened inward. Inside was a narrow room. No furniture, no lights, just a spiral symbol carved in the floor. They stepped inside, formed a triangle, closed their eyes. Then they spoke. Not loudly, not in unison, just fragments. Steady, chosen, return. Mia filmed it. I watched the camera screen. The image flickered. Not the battery, not the lens, just the feed. Like something didn't want to be recorded. After 2 minutes, they stepped out, closed the door, and walked past us without looking. We didn't move. Not until the hallway lights flickered back on. Back in our room, we reviewed the footage. The ritual was there, but the audio was wrong. It looped, the same 3 words repeating every 7 seconds, even though we'd heard more. Mia checked Lena's journal again. One of the pages had changed. They meet before sunrise, always the same hallway, always the same order. Now it said, they meet before sunrise. If you see them, don't speak. We hadn't spoken, but we'd filmed. That afternoon, I asked Miss Kessler about the service corridor. She smiled. That wing's under renovation, she said. Best not to wander. I asked about Lena Caldwell. She paused, just for a second, then said, I don't believe we've had anyone by that name. I didn't push. Later, Mia found a spiral pin tucked into her laundry cart. No note, no explanation. She didn't wear it. That night, the alarm clock blinked again. 3:17, then 3, then 3:17. Again, I filmed it. Again, the footage showed nothing. But I remember it, and I think it remembers me. Around 3:30, I got up to grab water. Mia was asleep. The hallway outside our room was quiet. I walked toward the elevator just to check. The floor felt off, like it dipped slightly, even though it was level. I turned the corner and saw Jonas again, standing at the end of the hall. Just standing. He didn't move, didn't speak. I blinked, and he was gone. No footsteps, no door, just gone. I went back to the room, locked the door, sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the journal. One of the pages had a new entry, dated today. If you've seen the ritual, you've already been counted. I didn't tell Mia. Not yet. The next morning, she was quiet, focused. She said she wanted to go back to the supply closet, said she thought there might be more. I asked if she was okay. She nodded, but her eyes didn't match. I watched her walk down the hall, alone, and for the first time since we got here, I wondered if we were already too late.
Mia left before sunrise. She didn't wake me, just slipped out. I found her side of the bed cold and the journal missing. I checked the hallway. Empty. I grabbed the camera and followed. The east wing felt different. Not colder, quieter, like the sound had been turned down. Even my footsteps felt muted. I passed room 233, the spiral door, the service corridor, then the supply closet. It was open. Inside, the shelves were rearranged. The bleach bottles were gone. In their place was a stack of folded towels, each one marked with a spiral stitched into the corner. Mia wasn't there. I kept walking.
At the end of the corridor, the metal door was ajar. Just slightly, enough to see the edge of the spiral carved into the floor. I stepped closer. Inside, the room was empty. No staff, no triangle, just the spiral. And Mia's camera back. I picked it up. Her camera was missing. On the floor, beside the spiral, was a single page torn from Lena's journal. If you reach the center, you won't remember how. I didn't understand it. Not yet. I turned to leave, and the hallway was gone. Not dark, not blocked, just different. The wallpaper had changed, the trim was older, the carpet was patterned with spirals. I walked forward. The hallway stretched longer than it should have. I passed room 217, then 217 again, then 217 a third time. Each door looked identical, but the numbers were slightly off. One was crooked, one was faded, one was missing entirely. I opened the third. Inside was our room. But it wasn't. The bed was made, the desk was bare. No notes, no journal, no camera. I stepped inside. The door closed behind me. I turned, and the spiral was carved into the wall. I blinked. It was gone. I sat on the edge of the bed, tried to breathe, tried to think. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Slow, even, rhythmic. I opened the door. The hallway was normal again. The trim, the carpet, the lighting. Mia was standing at the end, holding the journal. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded. "Where were you?" She looked confused. "I went to the supply closet. You were asleep." I checked the time, 6:12 a.m. I checked the camera. The footage was blank. Just static. We sat on the bed and flipped through the journal. One of the pages had changed again. If you reach the center, you won't remember how. Now it said, if you reach the center, don't look back. Mia traced the spiral with her finger. "It's not a symbol," she said. "It's a path." I didn't ask what she meant, because I already knew. That night, I found a spiral pen on my pillow. No note, no explanation. I didn't wear it, but I didn't throw it away either. Around 2 a.m., I woke up to a sound. Not footsteps, not voices, typing. I sat up. The desk was empty. No laptop, no keyboard, but the sound was there. Soft, deliberate keystrokes. I walked over. Nothing. Then I saw it. A single sheet of paper in the drawer. Blank. Until I touched it. Words appeared. "You're not the first." I dropped it. The words faded. I didn't tell Mia. The next morning, she was quiet, focused. She said she wanted to go back to the supply closet. Said she thought there might be more. I asked if she was okay. She nodded, but her eyes didn't match. I watched her walk down the hall, alone. And for the first time since we got here, I wondered if we were already too late.
We didn't talk much the next morning. Mia was focused. She kept flipping through Lena's journal, tracing the spiral sketches like they were maps. I tried to ask what she was looking for, but she just said, "patterns." I spent my shift watching the staff. The ones with pins moved differently, not just in pairs anymore. Some walked alone, but always with purpose, always toward the east wing, always at the same time, 4:57 a.m. I checked the guest logs. Room 204 had been reassigned. The man who asked about the morning thing had checked out early. No record of checkout, no receipt, just a blank line. At lunch, Mia showed me a new page in the journal. It wasn't handwritten, it was typed. "The spiral is not the portal, it's the key." She said she hadn't seen it before, said it was tucked behind the back cover. That night, we decided to follow the staff again. Not just observe, document. We waited in the East Wing corridor. Lights dimmed. The hallway stretched longer than it should have. Not supernaturally, just architecturally wrong. Like it had been built to confuse. At 4:57, they arrived. 5 staff members, spiral pins, blank expressions. They entered the metal door. This time, it didn't close. We crept closer, stayed just outside the threshold. Inside, the spiral on the floor glowed faintly. Not bright, just enough to cast shadows that didn't match the bodies. They began to chant, not in English, not in Latin, something older, rhythmic, measured. Mia filmed. I watched the shadows. One of them moved. Not the staff, the shadow. It stepped out of sync, turned toward us. I pulled Mia back. The spiral pulsed once. A low hum filled the hallway, the kind you feel in your teeth. Then it stopped. The staff exited, walked past us. No eye contact, no reaction. But one of them dropped something. A small, black stone. Smooth, warm to the touch. We took it back to room 217. That's when things got worse. The mirror in the bathroom fogged over. No steam, no heat, just fog. Words appeared. You're close. I wiped it away. It came back. Mia checked the footage. The ritual was there, but the shadows didn't match. One figure appeared twice. Same posture, same movement, like it was looping. She paused the frame, zoomed in. It wasn't a staff member. It was Lena. Same uniform, same spiral pin, same blank expression. But Lena hadn't been seen since her call. We checked the staff roster again, still no record. That night, the closet door opened on its own. Not fast, not dramatic, just slow, intentional. Inside was a folded towel, spiral stitched into the corner. We hadn't put it there. Mia didn't sleep. I stayed up watching the hallway through the peephole. At 3:17, a figure passed by. No footsteps, no sound, just a flicker. I checked the camera. Nothing. But the black stone was warm again.
We didn't wait this time. Mia awoke me at 3:45 a.m. sharp. She had Lena's journal in one hand and her camera bag in the other. Her voice was calm, focused. "I think tonight's different," she said. "They're not just performing the ritual. They're finishing it." We dressed quickly. No words, just motion. The East Wing was colder than usual. Not just temperature, atmosphere. Like the hallway had been emptied of something essential. Sound, warmth, time. We passed the spiral door. It was open. Inside, the spiral on the floor glowed faintly, but this time it pulsed, like a heartbeat. 5 staff members stood in formation, spiral pins gleaming, eyes closed, hands clasped. Jonas was there. So was Miss Kessler. They began to chant, louder than before, still in that strange, ancient rhythm, but now it echoed, not off the walls, off something deeper. Mia filmed. I watched the shadows. They didn't match. One figure flickered, not like a glitch, like a flame. It shimmered, then solidified. It was Lena. She stood just outside the spiral. Her eyes were open, but they didn't see us. She mouthed something. I stepped closer. The hum grew louder, My ears rang. My vision blurred. Mia grabbed my arm. "Tyler," she said. "Look!" The spiral was changing. It wasn't just carved, it was opening. The center began to sink, not physically, visually, like the floor was folding inward. The staff didn't react. They kept chanting. Lena stepped forward into the spiral. Her body flickered again, then vanished. Mia dropped the camera. I picked it up. The screen was cracked. The footage was still rolling. I turned to leave, but the door was gone. Not closed. Gone. The walls shifted. The trim warped. The spiral pulsed again. Then the lights went out. We stood in darkness, total, heavy. Then the whispers started. Not words, just breath, movement, presence. I turned on the flashlight. The beam flickered, then stabilized. We were alone. The staff were gone. The spiral was still glowing, but faint, like it had spent itself. Mia knelt down, picked up a torn page from Lena's journal. If they cross, they won't come back alone. We didn't speak. We left the room. The hallway was normal again. Carpet, trim, light. But room 217 was different. The door was open. Inside, the bed was made. The desk was bare. But the mirror was fogged. Words appeared. "You're next." I wiped it away. It came back. Mia sat on the bed, silent. I checked the footage. The ritual was there. Lena was there. The spiral opened. But the timestamp was wrong. It said 12:01 a.m. We'd entered at 4:57. I didn't mention it, because this wasn't about time anymore. It was about place, and something had just crossed through.
We didn't leave the room for hours. Mia sat on the bed, flipping through Lena's journal like it might change again. I paced, checked the hallway, checked the footage, checked the mirror. The words were still there. "You're next." I wiped it away. It came back. At noon, we finally stepped out. The hotel felt off. Not empty, not busy, just wrong. The front desk was manned by someone I hadn't seen before. Young, smiling, spiral pin. He greeted me by name. "Mr. Reed," he said. "Welcome back." I hadn't left. I asked if Miss Kessler was around. "She's resting," he said. "She's earned it." I didn't ask what that meant. Mia met me in the staff lounge. She looked pale, distracted. She said, "I saw Lena again, in the laundry room, just for a second." I didn't ask if she was sure. She was. We decided to retrace the ritual. Not the spiral room, just the places around it. The corridors, the closets, the spaces that felt wrong. The supply closet had changed again. The towels were gone. In their place, a row of spiral pins lined up like teeth. We didn't touch them. In the east wing, the wallpaper had started to peel, Beneath it, more spirals, carved into the plaster. Deep, old. Mia filmed. I took notes. Then the lights flickered. Not just dimmed, flickered in rhythm, like a heartbeat. We stepped back. The hallway stretched again. Not physically, visually, like it wanted to be longer. Then we heard it. A knock. Not on a door. On the wall. 3 slow taps. Then silence. We didn't move. Then a whisper. Stay steady. It wasn't a voice we recognized. We left. Back in room 217, the spiral pin was gone from my pillow. In its place, a folded towel, spiral stitched in the corner. Mia checked the journal again. A new page had appeared. Handwritten, not Lena's handwriting. The portal opens inward. What comes through is shaped by what's waiting. We didn't know what that meant, but we knew it wasn't good. That night, the closet door opened again. Inside, a figure. Just for a second. Tall, pale, eyes too wide. Then gone. I checked the footage. Nothing. Mia didn't sleep. I stayed up, watching the hallway. At 3:17, the elevator dinged. No one came out, but the spiral symbol was glowing on the floor. Faint, pulsing. I stepped into the hallway. The air felt thick, heavy. Then I saw it. A handprint on the wall. Small, child-sized, fresh. I touched it. It was warm. We didn't film the next morning. Mia said the camera wasn't helping. Said it was getting in the way of seeing what was real. I didn't argue. The spiral symbol had started appearing in places it shouldn't. Scratched into the underside of our dresser, etched faintly into the mirror frame, burned into the corner of a guest receipt I found at the front desk. I asked the new desk clerk about it, the one who greeted me by name. He smiled. "It's part of the tradition," he said. "You'll understand soon." I didn't push. Mia spent the afternoon in the laundry wing. She said she wanted to retrace Lena's steps. Said she felt like Lena had left something behind. She came back with a bundle of towels, all stitched with spirals, all folded perfectly. Inside one was a note. "The portal feeds on presence. The more who believe, the wider it opens." We didn't know who wrote it. The handwriting wasn't Lena's. It wasn't typed. It was jagged, rushed. That night, the hallway outside room 217 felt different. Not darker, denser, like the air had weight. We heard footsteps, but no one passed. We heard breathing, but no one spoke. At 2 a.m., the closet door opened again. Inside was a figure. Not Lena, not staff, something else. Tall, thin, eyes too wide, mouth too still. It didn't move. It just watched. Then it flickered.
Gone. Mia didn't speak. She just sat on the bed, clutching the journal. I checked the mirror. No fog. No words. Just a handprint. Pressed from the inside. The next morning, we tried to leave the hotel. Packed our bags, walked to the lobby. Miss Kessler was back. She smiled. "Leaving so soon?" she asked. I nodded. "We've seen enough." She tilted her head. "But you haven't seen the crossing." I didn't answer. She handed me a folded towel, spiral stitched, no explanation. We walked outside. The air felt wrong. Not cold, not warm, just off. The trees didn't move, the wind didn't blow, the birds didn't sing. We got in the car. The engine wouldn't start. Not dead, not broken, just silent. Mia checked her phone. No signal. I checked mine. Battery full. No bars. We looked back at the hotel. The spiral symbol was glowing faintly in the lobby window. We went back inside. Room 217 was untouched, but the journal had a new page. "If you try to leave before the crossing, it will follow you." We didn't sleep. We didn't speak. We just waited.
We didn't sleep the night before. Mia stayed up decoding Lena's final entries. I paced the room, checking the hallway every few minutes. The spiral symbol outside our door had stopped pulsing, but I didn't trust it. At 6 p.m., Miss Kessler knocked. She didn't wait for an answer, just stepped inside. "You're invited," she said. "Tonight, the crossing." She placed 2 spiral pins on the dresser, one for each of us. Then she left. We didn't touch them. Mia stared at the pins. "They're not just symbols," she said. "They're permissions. If we wear them, we're part of it." I asked what happens if we don't. She didn't answer. That night we followed the staff. The spiral room was glowing before we arrived. Not just the floor, everything. The walls, the ceiling. Even the air shimmered faintly, like heat rising off pavement. 10 staff members stood in formation, spiral pins gleaming, eyes closed, hands raised. Jonas was there, Miss Kessler, the desk clerk, even the bellhop. They began to chant. This time it wasn't rhythmic, it was urgent, like they were trying to hold something back or pull it through. The spiral pulsed, the center sank. Then Lena appeared. Not flickering, not ghostly, solid. She stepped into the spiral. Her eyes were open. Her mouth moved, but no sound came out. Mia gripped my arm. She's trying to stop it. The spiral pulsed again. Then the entity came through. It didn't walk. It didn't crawl. It unfolded. Tall, pale. Eyes too wide, mouth too still. It didn't look at the staff. It looked at us. The chanting stopped. The staff dropped to their knees. The entity stepped forward. Lena turned to us, her voice finally audible. "It's not here for them. It's here for the ones who see." Then she stepped into the spiral's center. The glow surged. Mia pulled out Lena's journal, flipped to the final page. To close the spiral, One must step in without belief. She looked at me. We don't believe in it. That's why we can end it. I nodded. We stepped forward together. The spiral pulsed once more. Then, everything went dark. We woke up in room 217. The spiral pins were gone. The journal was gone. The mirror was clear. No fog, no handprints, no messages. We checked the footage. The ritual was there. Lena, the entity, us stepping into the spiral. Then static. We thought it was over. The staff were gone. The front desk was empty. The east wing was sealed off. We packed our bags, walked to the lobby. The air felt normal. The trees moved. The wind blew. The birds sang. We got in the car. The engine started. We drove away. Mia didn't speak for the first hour. Then she said, "I think we stopped it." I wanted to believe her. But when we got home, I found something in my bag. A folded towel. Spiral, stitched in the corner.
It's been 3 months since Tyler and Mia left the Stanley. They moved into a quiet rental outside, Boulder. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, no spiral symbols. They unpacked, slowly. Lena's journal stayed sealed in a box under the bed. The footage was backed up, encrypted, and buried in a folder labeled "Do Not Open." They didn't talk about the ritual. Not directly, just fragments. "Did you hear anything last night?" "No, me neither." But sometimes Tyler still checked the mirror, just in case. Sometimes Mia woke up at 4:57 a.m. without knowing why. They tried to move on. Then the call came. Not from the Stanley, from the Hotel Boulderado. A woman named Marcy, night manager, left a voicemail. "I don't know who else to call. Room 304 has been active again. Guests are reporting movement.